Welcome, I'm Colin Daniel from riffninja.com, and we're here today to boost our creativity and our knowledge so that we can write songs better and so we can pull some of our ideas and draw from them some more. And this is lesson number 1 in a series of 4 lessons, and we're going to cover the 6 primary chords in any key through a really simple mathematical step formula that's used in all standard traditional theoretical teaching. And we'll start with a major key, a really easy major key, because you have to pick a key first. You need a note to start with. So whatever key you pick, that's the foundation note or the root note, right? And all the other chords or notes, single notes, all revolve around each other after that. In every key, we have 3 major chords and 3 minor chords that belong in that key, for each key that is possible in music. A key is a family of notes that belong together, a group of harmonies that belong together. So, for each major chord, we have a relative minor. For each minor chord, we have a relative major. For example, if you had G major, its relative minor would be E minor, right? And E minor's relative major would be G major. So I'll show you how to figure that out right now. A thing called 1, 4, and 5. 1 is the root note, the tonic note, the starting note, the key note of whatever you've chosen. I've chosen to start with a G major key because it's a very common key, right? Okay, so G major or the G note becomes the 1. Now we need the 4. Why do we need the 4? Because that's where you'll find the next primary harmony for G major is at the 4. So what you need to do is you need to count up 4 letter names and 2.5 tones. And then if you haven't heard the term before, 2.5 tones, or it could be whole steps. Tones are the same as whole steps. So I could say 2 whole steps, 1 half step, or it's easier for me to say 2.5 tones, right? Which is 2 tones and a semitone. What does that mean in guitar fret language? It means that for each tone that we have, it's 2 fret distance. And we're not talking about counting the note we're playing at. We're talking about what note we're going to. So for example, say we're at the 6th string, 5th fret, right? Which is an A. And we went a whole step or a tone. We'd go 1, 2. From the 5th fret to the 7th fret would be technically a distance of a whole step. 2 frets. Do not count the fret you start from. When you count your letter names though, you count the letter name you start with and end with. So if you're in the key of G, your 4th letter name up from G is a C. G, A, B, C, right? Now we have to check the distance. The distance is going to be 2.5 tones or 2 whole steps and a half step. That's 5 frets altogether if you do the math, right? Each tone is worth 2 frets, so you got 4 frets plus 1 more 5 frets. So you can figure it out visually on your guitar, or you can figure it out in your mind. I just do it in my mind. It's really fast. G to A is a tone, A to B is a tone, and B to C is a semitone. There's your 4 letter names, G, A, B, and C, right? And you've got the right distance. You've got 2.5 tones. So that means C is our next harmony related to G. So G is 1 and C is 4. Okay, once you've got that, it's easy to get the 5 because the 5 is always a tone from the 4. So if G is 1 in the key of G, C is 4, and D is 5, because C to D is a tone. That means G, C, and D are your 1, 4, and 5. And now, folks, how many of you have seen songs that are written using G, C, and D? And how many songs are in the key of G using a G, C, and D? Well, thousands. Now, all we need to do is find our 3 minors, and we've got the 6 chords. How hard is that? Well, it's not too hard because here's the next step. If you're in a major key, like G major right now, G, C, and D, that's our 1, 4, and 5, right? That's the 3 primary chords for G major. And you want to find the relative minor in a major key when you've got your 3 primary major chords. All you've got to do is go from the 5 chord, in this case, G is 1, C is 4, D is 5, right? All you have to do is go from the 5, 1 whole step, 1 tone, and you have your relative minor tonic. Once you get the relative minor tonic, you go 1 to 4, then you find your 5, and you got your 3 primary minors that are relative to the 3 primary majors you just counted up from. So what I'm telling you is all 6 of those chords are going to sound great together. Some better than others in certain orders. You have to experiment with that, right? But that gives you your options. Okay, so if G is 1, C is 4, D is 5, then E minor, and it has to be a minor chord now, not a major. E major is not relative to G major. E minor is relative to G major because you have to have both sounds. You have to have the dark sound, the minor, which is relative to the bright or happy sound, which is major. You got major and minor, those are your foundational sounds, right? Your tones, your colors. Your tonal colors, I call them colors, right? Because one's really dark and one's really bright. And you have to have that. You have black against white, right? Okay, so E minor. Well, how hard is it to figure out the 1, 4, 5? Well, the same process we just did for G, C, and D. So the 4 is 2.5 tones, 5 frets, right? Plus 4 letters. Well, if we count up 4 letters, we go E, F, G, A. A is the 4th letter name if we're starting with an E as a tonic. All right? What's the distance? E to F, semitone or half step. F to G tone, G to A tone. Okay, we got 2.5. That means E minor's 4 chord is A minor. And what's the 5 chord? Well, 1 tone from A minor, B minor. So, in the key of G major, your 3 primary major chords are G, C, and D. And your 3 primary minors in relative are E minor, A minor, and B minor. And those 6 chords can be blended and interchanged in any possible way you can imagine, any order, any rhythmic structure. There's been many thousands of famous songs that have been written off this group of 6 chords. And you have to learn to mix them up a bit. So those are your foundational chords for the key of G. G, C, and D, relative major. E minor, A minor, and B minor, relative minor. And those 6 chords can be arranged any way. You don't have to include them all in your progression either. It's just your choices, your options. All right, let's do one more key. Let's do the key of A major. Now I'm going to go in bar chords, but you don't have to use bar chords. You can use anything you want. But I thought I'd just benefit you a little more by showing you how, if you know a few basic bar chords, you can spot your 1, 4, 5 much easier than figuring it out with open chords. So, in the key of A is the tonic, right? That's the 1. 4 letter names up, A, B, C, D. Okay, so D is going to be the 4. Now let's check the distance. A to B is a tone, B to C is a semitone, C to D is a tone. Good. So A major and D major are 1 and 4, right? Now the 5, well, if 4 is D and you go up a tone, you got E. So A, D, and E. A, D, and E. And this is the easiest place to play it right here with this kink bar. A major, D major, E major. Relative minor. Here we go. 6th. The 6th note. 1 tone higher from the 5. So if A is 1, D is 4, E is 5, a tone higher than E is F sharp. Not F natural, but F sharp. So our relative minor, and we're not going to call it the other name. We're going to call it an F sharp because we need to go to the 6th letter name, right? We don't want to go to the 7th letter name and call it a G flat. It's got to be called an F sharp, right? Okay, so it's the key of F sharp minor is relative to A major. How many times have you seen things like this? Or heard things like that for that matter, right? A, F sharp minor, D, and E, or 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. And that be in the key of A major. But there's your relative minor, F sharp minor. Okay, the 4 of F sharp minor. Well, F, G, A, B. B is the 4th letter name, but we've got an F sharp in here. Let's see how it lines up. F sharp to G is a semitone, G to A is a tone, and A to B is a tone. That works. So F sharp minor's relative minor to A major, and F sharp minor's 4 chord is B minor. And if B minor is the 4 chord, then C sharp, which is the tone higher than B, 2 frets higher, is going to be the 5. 1, 4, and 5. F sharp minor, B minor, and C sharp minor, right? Okay, these 6 chords, A major, D major, and E major, and F sharp minor, B minor, and C sharp minor are relative to each other and fit together in the same family of harmonies and are guaranteed to sound good. What you do with them is up to you. Okay, boys and girls, this is lesson 1. I hope this has interested you, intrigued you, and given you a better insight into your songwriting options that you have. And now when you've got this sorted out, I'll see you in the next lesson. This is Colin Daniel from riffninja.com. Over and out.